Okay, so we are going to move on to our next session, and it's all about the future. The future needs to be more sustainable. It needs to be more equitable. We're all on board with this, but how do we make it happen? Our next panel is going to look at Fintech for good and the future of technology. So it's a great pleasure to introduce our next three rock stars to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your moderator, Fernando Rodriguez Bergareche, who is from CaixaBank Day One. Fernando, thank you. Welcome.
Hello, hi.
Awesome. And then we're welcoming two speakers, Jose Luis Ruiz de Munain, who is the CEO of Spain NAB. Welcome, Jose Luis. Round of applause for Jose Luis. Thank you very much. And joining on stage, again, a great friend of South Summit, the founder of Thubi Labs and Flywire. Please welcome Iker Markede. Thank you. Fernando, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, South Summit, for this opportunity of talk with these two colleagues of the investment ecosystem. So first of all, we have today a panel that we are thinking how to tell you some news of the Fintech for good or for bad. So the name of this panel is Fintech for good, the future of technology. So we are trying to explain you a different vision about how the impact investment could make an effort to have better projects, better startups in the future system. And for this, we have today Iker Markede. I think that most of you knows him from like founder of Flywire and one of the biggest news of this year, like the first Spanish startup in the Nasdaq. But he is now in another projects I think that are very very interesting, and he will talk us about with him. No? And we have two today, José Luis Ruiz de Munain, Director of the Spain NAV and founder of For Impacto, that is the Spanish Impact Investment Advisory Council. So first of all, if you can make a little brief about who you are and present yourself, please.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. A pleasure. So yeah, maybe I'm a bit more well-known for my first startup, which was started out, out of total ignorance, and suffering something firsthand and trying to solve it. It was that time called Peer Transfer, now Flywire, which was the first startup, as I was mentioning, originally Spanish, to be quoted on Nasdaq this year. It's right now around 5 billion in market cap. And then when I moved back to Valencia in 2013, I stepped down as CEO of the company and founded Thubi Labs. Essentially, Thubi Labs, we say we solve challenges for a better future, and we have two arms. One is we create companies, so we're a venture builder focused on impact, and we have very sort of things, a school, eco districts, tech impact companies, etc. And then we have a second arm, which is an investment management arm. And this year, derived from COVID, we created our first investment strategy. It was actually the first impact venture debt fund in Europe. It's called Thubi Capital. And in all these, essentially what we try is to mobilize talent to join our projects, funds, etc. And we also mobilize co-investors. So we act as catalytic capital, taking the initial risk when we create these companies, or acting as an anchor investor in the funds we set up, to also have more capital that is looking for market returns to join us.
Okay, José Luis.
So thank you very much, Fernando. Hi, everyone. Pleased to meet you all here. So I'm José Luis de Munain, the Executive Director of the Spain NAP, which is the National Advisory Board for Impact Investment in Spain. We are an industry association trying to boost impact investing in Spain, and we are part of a global community, which is the GSG, the Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, which was born back in 2013 in the G7. So we have a strong relationship with governments worldwide, and here in Spain since 2019, we are trying to build and to engage with the different players in the ecosystem.
Okay, and to put you in value at the beginning, what the impact is? You are an expert and you are director of the principal ecosystem impact in Spain. So, what is really the impact between another concept like sustainability, social corporate responsibility, or something like that? What is impact?
So impact probably is a buzzword. Now, I would say almost everything you read about impact everywhere, but in reality, impact is not everywhere. It's the evolution, I would say, in the early 2000s from CSR, corporate social responsibility. Then we talk about valor compartido, or share value, sustainability, and impact. In the end of the day, is really putting positive impact at the heart of business and investment decisions. It's not about creating a department, but it's really about seeing impact and the impact on society, the positive, as a business opportunity where everybody benefits. As our global chair, Sir Ronald Cohen, the chair of GSG, talks, 50 years ago, there was a binomial on return. Investors would analyze return and risk, the binomial. And what we are proposing is that we have to shift our mind. There is a new paradigm where we should be talking about the trinomial of return, risk, and impact. So it should be one more variable. No? And in terms of impact investment, basically it's an investing philosophy in different asset classes. Can be either venture capital, private equity, or even some liquid assets. It can be both equity or debt. And is a type of investment that is looking for at least getting back the principal capital, a return, a financial return. And something which is very important and we'll build later on is about the additionality. It's a sort of capital which is reaching untapped markets. Markets that otherwise, impact markets that otherwise would not have access to financial markets. No? Is this kind of capital that is building a new market around impact and its philosophy.
Okay, thank you. And linked with this conversation, these words that you are talking, Iker, you are in your aim, you are focuses in the past, you are saying entrepreneur focuses in startup and scale up your project, but in the recent times you have changed your vision to projects focuses on impact. What's the reason? Because you changed your philosophy of projects. What are you thinking? Is because you think it's a way of the new economy? It's a personal profit to give to the society, something that you have said before? Or?
You know, I admire very much the entrepreneurs that have everything mapped out and clear. I think I'm more of a dumb entrepreneur that tries, to find my own way as I encounter issues. And essentially, when I created, maybe my life was very linear up to a certain point. You study, you get good grades, you go to management consulting, you go do an MBA, you start a company, and a company has to be a success. And when I came back to Valencia in 2013, I was 30, and it was really the first time in my life in which I could say, what do I actually want to do with my life, right? And I forced myself when my first child was born not to jump into anything for a year. And then I realized what I want to create is a platform for other entrepreneurs to co-found businesses together, where we could actually finance and take part of the risk, but also focus on companies that beyond a financial return could have a social or environmental impact. For me, a big inspiration was, at that time was a pioneer, was the Socialness Foundation with Margarita that leads it, to really think about business in different terms and open that view on impact and how to ingrain that into business. And what I started looking for, that's how Zubilab was born, but actually I really didn't take a lot of visibility until 2019, because the first projects, I was looking for a school, didn't like a school, so got together two friends, we created a school, which is the Magic Montessori School in Valencia. And then we started thinking about how we create an amazing place around the school to live in and contribute to reinvent the cities. And that's how Barrio La Pinada is a district over 300,000 square meters was born. And then from there, we started creating an ecosystem of different issues, social, environmental issues, and trying to use as a company as a tool. And in this scope of what are returns, we position on market returns, right? Because you'd find people that are saying, just give me back my money, or subsidized returns, etc. We are on the approach of market returns. So for me, really, my big motivation maybe was my children, and thinking on, what can I use my energies, my resources into.
Okay, you told us about the school that you are promoting and the city, the Pinada, but let's go to the money. No, you are creating two venture builder for impact economy, and then a venture debt fund. No?
Yeah.
Why do you think this the time to make this type of funder? So
So up to COVID, we were really creating companies, and we created the school, the district, and then a bunch of projects around that, really more as a venture builder or impact venture builder. But when COVID hit us, at that time we realized that there were a lot of companies that were great companies that were just because they were linked to certain industries like retail and travel, etc. They were not getting equity financing because the equity investors were just jumping into anything related to digital and digitalization, and they were not getting the eco loans and sort of loans because they were not banked. So we thought there was a big need for some sort of financing, and that's how we started mobilizing our own capital and our co-investors' capital. So we moved from let's fund our companies to let's invest in third-party companies. The truth is that that project has grown into a regulated fund, which is Thubi Capital is a 40 million fund that is investing at a pan-European level. It's tickets between 250 to 2.5 million. And it's investing in companies typically that are doing 1 to 10 million revenues. And we're creating these as a complement to impact equity investors. So there was a void there in terms of financing with debt or with venture debt, because essentially you're getting in return an interest rate, but also a small equity stake in the company. So for the entrepreneurs, it's far less dilutive than all equity. And the truth is that the companies are just being financed by equity investors because they cannot reach bank financing. So you're kind of there in a point in between. And for us, is investing for the very future, is mobilizing this capital. And we think about, José Luis mentioned about additionality. When we think about our investments, we think about the what, so the intentionality. We think about the who are the beneficiaries, right? We think about the how much, like how scalable can this be, and also the contribution. So what's our value added in this opportunity?
Okay. And José Luis, with your global vision of the ecosystem of impact in Spain, do you think initiatives like these funds or this type of rules are only trendy or something that is going to have some time with us, or is real? Do you have any real beside him or not? Or do you think it's a lot of projects with a lot of future, or it's only something that will in 4 years is another time we're looking for the money, not for the impact in the economy?
So let's start with a global vision. According to the GIN, the Global Impact Investment Network, there are around 700 billion euros invested in impact investment globally. If we go to here in Spain, we have 2.3 billion. I think for sure this is not a trend. And also, if we put a look in Europe, there is a trend, there is a big wave coming, which is the regulatory one. So as you all know, there is the European Commission is in the process of launching sustainable finance law, a taxonomy on social aspects, on green aspects. And the post-pandemic recovery, it is said to be digital and green. Our main concern is that it should be also just social. And this is something that eventually is not always happening. But in Spain, we were fortunate that a number of pioneers, such as Iker, Margarita, and a number of other impact funds saw this 15 years ago. And this has been a massive increase of the players in the market. And also, one of the works we do it at Spain NAP is to size the market. When we started back in 2019, we sized the market of venture capital and private equity in 90 million euros of assets managed, which is very little. 2 years later, in June this year, this amount skyrocketed to 500 millions of venture capital. And additionally, what is very important is that impact investment is becoming to be understood not just as equity investment, but also as debt, finance, and other types of investment. And in that sense, we have important players in Spain, like the ethic banking and social banking that are really, or even some venture debt funds that are really evolving very rapidly. So for sure, this is not a trend. Okay. It's something that maybe in Spain we have not been so fast as our neighborhoods. I mean, if you go, we always talk about the UK, right? About when you talk about impact investment, but you don't have to go so far. If you just look at France and Portugal, our neighbors, you would see that it's amazing what's going to happen in France, Le French Impact, in Portugal Innovación Social, very strong public-private partnerships, a lot of money coming, and more with the recovery plan.
Okay, and Iker, this stage is normally about fintech, so we can link it with the fintech with the impact. Do you think that there's a gap that fintech focuses on impact finance could be an opportunity for new business, or you think some business associated with impact finance?
So I'm going to step back and maybe think about like fintech for good and kind of the broad picture, right? Because maybe we talk about very specific things. So if we think about, I love Core Innovation Capital is a VC, is a fintech VC in the US, and they talk about democratizing prosperity. I think fintech for good is about that. So we can certainly think about planet and say Subi Capital or venture debt fund, etc. And what additionality, what contribution can you create to the planet, climate change, biodiversity, all those things. And then you have all the social side. So we're thinking about, and this has many different angles, right? So when I started Flywire, my frustration was that the people that less information have end up paying also most of the fees. So typically in financial services, if you have less purchasing power, you have less information, you end up paying the fees. So and you can think about financial services very broadly. So you can think about financing, right? So if you as an individual are taking a loan, if you don't have a credit score, if there is no way for you to for someone to do a scoring on you, if you're living on payday loans, you're getting, barely your job lets you get end of the month. So you get into this death spiral, right? And you get essentially, that's what I would call the slavery of this century, right? Which is essentially you get in a situation you cannot get out. And you can think about getting loans. You can think about investing, so the financial planning, like achieving your objectives, etc. But also fraud, insurance. So there are many different angles in thinking about financial services and how technology can make more efficient, more transparent, more accessible, more affordable, all these different angles. And just to put you an example, and this links to the social environmental side, I invested in a company called Solaris Off-Grid, and they, as an angel a few years ago, and essentially what they do is they enable pay-as-you-go solutions for energy access and other solutions. They started with energy, and this is in Africa. So typically for people that were not able to afford, say a solar panel and a battery, and they would essentially enable them to pay little by little, week by week, with actually the savings they generate from saving kerosene and other things, right? So essentially you're servitizing, a product but at the same time, you're making it affordable. So you're having a contribution to the planet because you're switching the energy, but also to the people, and even saving lives, etc. So that's kind of an example I thought would be interesting that touches a lot of dimensions, and there is a lot of activity in this kind of space of fintech for good.
Okay, the time has finished, so thank you very much, Iker. Thank you very much, José Luis. As a resume of this conversation, I think that one of the headlines could be that the impact investment is not only a trend, and it's a thing that all the investors are changing their point of view in order to make their profile of their investment. Sorry. So thank you very much, and thank you, everybody.